Okay, folks, how you doing? While this is typically a Q&A show, we're going to start it off with a little bit of a confessional. This here is a tray, a little plastic container. And before we shot the show, we like to get, dinner and snacks, make sure we're all set up and accounted for and everybody's needs are met. And so Marta was very kind and went down to Hudak Cafe, our favorite place down the street, and picked up 2 very nice handmade brownies, right? Mm-hmm. And they were both placed inside this container. And then she made a grave error. Oh, excuse me. It's my time. She made a grave error. So we were eating dinner at the counter over there, and she had a calzone, which is
Ashley.
Treacherous. Thanks, Ashley. I had a chicken sandwich, which was it's right in the middle. Chicken sandwich. It's
still carb.
It's not. Yeah, it's a little bit carb rich, but it's not like I just did like a triple cheese pizza or anything like that, right? No, I mean, like, if you're going to look at degrees,
sure.
I think that goes back.
It's a nice Q&A snack.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of mid-range kind of like atrocity, if you will. Anyways, so we were eating, and then what happened was, to be perfectly frank, Marta started working on other parts of getting things ready tonight. She started working with the computer and going through all the different stuff, and this little tray with 2 giant brownies were sitting right next to me. And she'd opened it up and she'd said, well, I'm just going to have a little piece. And I was like, oh, I thought we were going to wait until we were actually like sitting here eating.
That's what he said.
That is what I said. And so I was like, okay, cool. I can handle that. We'll leave them there. And then when we start shooting, we can start to kind of like share and share alike and be kind and polite and generous and all that. What ended up happening is that she kind of left this tray of brownie goodness untended to, unguarded, and went about her business to try and get things ready for the show. And while I was writing out the show and feeling the anxiety and the pressure and the stress that it's crushing, it really is crushing, right? Help me, back me up. So the anxiety is crushing, and when I get into that crushing anxiety, I want to reach for a sweet treat. So I did, and I had a brownie in there of one of the 2, and so I started eating that, and I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. I was like, "Wow, this is so fresh, and so chocolatey."
And exactly the reason why I got those, because they are so fresh. And because they are so good.
Yeah.
And because I really wanted one.
Yeah, no, it's great choices. And so I started eating mine, and then Marta was still busy. She was like really industrious. I have to give her mad props. And if you can see what I'm doing right here, I'm trying to create a diversion, a bit of a detour. Look over here, don't look over here. And so she was doing really great work, getting everything all set up and ready to rock and roll. And while that was going on, and while I was ostensibly writing up the show, I just basically devoured both of the brownies, including hers. And
after reprimanding me for having a tiny corner before the show started.
Yeah, well, because can I explain why? Because that was kind of like a gateway moment. Like a gateway drug.
Oh.
It was like, no, it's like a gateway moment. Once you did that, I was like, oh, all bets are off. If she's going to have a piece of that, I might as well have a piece too. And it's kind of like it felt like
I'm gonna eat both of
it
them.
felt like a gateway moment. And I'm not justifying, I'm not rationalizing, and I'm not saying I'm in the right. I'm just saying that the moment you took that piece, it felt like it was game on. And and I wish I could have pulled out and made the more gentlemanly decision, but it just wasn't in the cards. I was so hungry, and I just came back from a giant workout, giant cardio. I'm making a lot of excuses here. And anyways, Marta saw the empty tray things went a little sideways. She was counting on that. So, what did this bad but somewhat good guy do? Just tell everybody what he did.
Well, after I said that you didn't have to go anywhere because let's just shoot the show because the show must go on.
But there was a tinge of like, I want to stick a sword in your back kind of thing.
More like in your stomach.
No, in your stomach, okay.
To get those brownies back out that belong to me.
Stomach wounds are always way worse than the back.
But anyway, Sean went for a bike ride to, I assume, Mardi Gras zone?
No, I went down to Frenchman Street.
Okay.
And I dodged cars coming the wrong direction because I was like, time is of the essence. I've got to go, gotta go.
But then he got back and I was like, okay. And he forgot his wallet. So I had to wait another
two strikes.
10, 15 minutes.
2 strikes, yeah, bad.
But
what did I show up with?
You showed up with my favorite sweets that I don't usually allow myself having because those freaking worms are what every bird needs.
So, the question on everybody's mind, am I forgiven?
I guess so.
Aww. Okay, so that just goes to show what some strategic neon worms, sweet and sour, will do for repairing damage. I also got her some ice cream, in which case...
I'm sure the ice cream is more for a Sean or Shay.
No, I really thought that you'd enjoyed that, but...
I appreciate it.
But apparently she didn't, so that means that somebody will be responsible for doing away with that. What was it, Half-Baked? Ben & Jerry's? Whew, God. Anyways, okay, guys, so now that we've... You okay?
Yeah.
Do you need a knife?
I got it. I was just gonna say I'm not a big ice cream fan, just like I'm not a big bacon fan, and people like really hold it always against me, like how can you not like bacon?
Well, I mean, that does put you in a questionable group. I'm just saying.
That's okay.
Anyways, okay, guys, so, and with that, we've covered a bit of the tension, a bit of the real life. Everybody thinks everything's just hunky-dory, and we set up the camera, we write up the story, we hug, and we're like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. We order some dinner, and we just, boom, we hit it running. Truth of the matter is, real life gets in the way. People make dumb decisions, and then people get angry and annoyed, and then you have to try and dig yourself out of the hole. And so that's where we find ourselves today. And with that, I would like to kick our ass off into the beginning of the show. You ready? Let's go. Okay, guys, so I'm trying to work through my guilt. So if you see tears or you see like weird microfacial muscular tension, it's because I'm processing guilt and struggling. And
just know I don't hold anything against you.
Oh, it's so sweet. It's so sweet. Secretly she does, and,
No, I don't.
and she may smother me in my sleep tonight. You like those brownies? Did you like them? They taste good.
I hope you dream about them all night long.
Oh yeah. Okay. Anyways, guys, welcome to Q&A number 147. Boom. We're moving.
I'm getting down. Like, I'm getting it.
You're 4,000 episodes ahead of me because like I literally couldn't do it. Which means we're about to hit 150, which means we're getting really, really close to 200, which will be super exciting because although that may not be like in the Joe Rogan, arena of like multiple thousands and multiple thousands, for a smaller dog training podcast to be able to stick with it, and even though we took some time off, to be able to start sorry, to be able to begin approaching 200 episodes is quite a feat, especially when you're doing it on your own. It's not funded, and you just got to show up every week, and you've got to do the work, write it up, come up with the answers, set up the camera, do the editing, post it up.
Eat the brownies.
Eat the brownies. Take the bike ride.
Forget your wallet.
Forget your wallet.
Take another bike ride.
Cry a few tears, and off you go. Anyways, so glad you guys are back. How should I say it? The views are fantastic. So back in the day, 500, 600, 700 views would take a while to get. And I don't know if it's just because it's brand new and people are like, well, let's check it out and see what they look like. But I think we hit 8 something on last week's. So we're moving close to 1,000, which for me, it's not an amazingly incredible, ginormous number, but 1,000 viewers, if we can nail that down once a week, is something I'm really proud of and something that feels really solid.
1,000 people that can find something valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, that's always been kind of a number that we're aiming towards, and we're getting closer. And so even last week's, which was 20 questions and really, really long, is moving towards 700 views, which is pretty damn fantastic. So anyways, let's jump in really quick because I know I was super long in the tooth, LaDawn, super long in the tooth about kind of running down all of the, just getting you guys up to date. So let's see if I can jam through this. The turquoise leashes arrived, well, today is Saturday when you watch this, but they arrived, what's today? Thursday. So they arrived today, Thursday. You'll be watching this on Saturday. So that means all the leashes, color-wise and size-wise, they've all arrived. And now it's just a matter of just shipping. So they're all on the way. So any of you guys that have been waiting and worried and concerned and like, did the good dog do me dirty? No, we didn't. They're on their way. So sit tight, hang tight, and those awesome leashes will be there soon. And one last thing, we've been getting pictures up the yin yang of people using the leashes on Instagram or Facebook, and the reviews are so good.
Which reminds me, if you do have a leash, please, if you want to share with other people your leash and pictures of its videos, feel free to use hashtag TGDLeash on Instagram. And we're trying to get that basically rolling to where other people can share the leashes, share videos, and basically when you want to look up a leash, is that something I really want, you get a good idea of what it's about.
Yeah.
And it's nice for us to see as we like maybe tweak something, if we want to add colors, if we want to add purple, if we want to add biofilm.
Yeah.
It's just a good way for us to keep track of what people are asking for.
Yeah, and also see what people's feelings are like. How are they utilizing the tool? How is it serving them? Any problems, any issues? So far, all we've seen are people saying, wow, this is so easy. Wow, this is so safe. Wow, there's no tangling. Wow, they look cool. All the stuff that we really went after hard. And so I'm super proud, and I'm sure you're super proud as well, because we went through so many iterations.
Sandra, because she has like, as soon as we had like the smallest idea, bam, the leash was here the next day, another prototype. Like she was
so fast, like the
so
Spider-Man of leash creation.
So
she's like,
Sandra, big shout out to you. We are so grateful to have you with us on this mission of the leashes.
And for anybody who's getting the leashes, you'll see in the little packaging that we have, there's also a brochure from Wet Bizu, which is Sandra's company, which shares a lot of their products, or all of their products, if I'm not mistaken, that they provide, including a lot of the holsters that you see a lot of trainers wearing, and civilians wearing them as well. And well,
Sandra has been so busy.
She's making leashes. She's like, your holsters have come. But the holsters have become very, very popular. And the difference between like Sandra's and like some of the leather ones are that Sandra's are ultra custom made, color-wise, what you want inlaid as far as like pictures of your
Everything.
dog and things like that.
She is making embroidery of like your dog's photograph. It's amazing.
Yeah, so pretty damn cool stuff. Okay, so let's move on. New LA intern is getting settled, Ava. So she's settling in, and that's always a bit of a challenging situation. Like, basically, you come into the LA organization, and we've got this like boom, very tightly knit group, and we know exactly how we run, exactly how we function. And then you come in. Diane just left, who did a great job. Diane, Jesus. First I call her Monique, then I call her Diane. Like, I'm so sorry. Denise, and I caught myself like halfway. So Denise just left, and she's headed back to Florida, and she did a great job, and she was so much fun to have out. We really appreciated her. And now we've got Ava, and so we'll see how Ava does. Like I said, it's a bit of pressure. It's a lot to kind of, as far as the bar is pretty high. And so we don't expect people to come in and be like ninjas, but we do kind of have some high expectations of what they can actually provide, achieve, and share with the group. So Ava's got her work cut out for her, and we're rooting for her. So stay tuned with that. The new websites, once again, coming very soon. We've had some nice tweaks. They're like, I looked at our old website today, and I was like, tears are streaming down my face. I'm like, these are like 1920. They're so old. So the new websites are they're really, really close, and looking really fantastic. So yeah, we'll get there, and it's super cool. And then Henri and us are switching what day?
Oh, I don't remember. It's in 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks? Okay.
A week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that.
Okay. So Henri will be here in New Orleans. We'll be in LA, and bless you.
Thanks.
We're so proud of her because she's been covering her mouth lately. She comes from the Polish countryside where you just kind of like, achoo, or like,
I just find it disgusting to have to sneeze in my hand, because then I have my slobber on me. So I rather like turn away from everyone and just like sneeze in like the wall.
It's your slobber.
I don't like my slobber.
Yeah, you kind of have to embrace it. You kind of have to embrace it and be like, it's me.
I like this one. You
yeah.
know, like, because it's not your hands. Okay, it doesn't matter.
But do you really think that this is like not?
I mean, if you have a t-shirt on, sure, but if it's like cooler and it's like wintertime and you have like a jacket or a hoodie on.
Oh yeah, so it's great if you've got a big quilted jacket.
Yeah,
then you can like.
I sneeze like in my t-shirt now like this, because it protects
and
my
then it
hands.
blows out the bottom and like infects everyone. Anyways, so moving on. Henri will be here soon, and she'll be working with dogs, and we'll be working with shadows and dogs back in LA. And I think we covered that last time. And then, of course, the great gimbal battle has been, well, won and lost. Won by her, lost by me. And what is it? Give everybody the info on what you got.
I got a DJI Ronin S gimbal. And
Gimbo.
You love it, don't you? The way I pronounce things. Anyway, but basically, I think the very first videos we start shooting is the video for the leashes. So Sean walking around with the new leashes, presenting those, maybe some go home sessions. But basically, we are upping up the game drastically with what we want from the videos to look like, with the new camera that we have, the new gear that we have, and they should look much better. They should. The whole pressure is on me because I wanted all that stuff so bad.
Yeah. Exactly. She was like, if you get me this, and this, I'll make it all look like this. I'm like, okay. So pressure's on. And as we said today, if anybody watched Instagram stories, her whole gig is to like make me look cool and smooth, and once again, cool. So like whatever the gimbal does, it doesn't matter as long as I look like
cool.
Sashaying down the street with a dog, we're good. Then that's it's worth every penny. So anyways, I say we jump into the show.
I have a question.
Oh.
Should we announce the very secret projects we're having happening with Sandra, since it's like very close, that we have prototypes of a sort coming out soon?
Well, I'm gonna let you I'm going to let you share that briefly, as long as you make sure that you share that it's not ready, and for people not to get too excited.
Okay.
And
I'm
start.
just so excited myself. That
I
can't
know,
find. I'm sorry.
but then that means all of a sudden we get emails that
Okay,
are like,
okay.
"We're ready to order."
Okay, guys. So we have been.
This is vodka, by the way.
So since we have done the leashes, we also have thought about what is the other next most important thing that we use here, that we utilize even with our own dogs, are martingale collars for the backup. We don't like using the dominant dog collars. We don't like using flat buckle collars. We prefer to use martingale collars, but the normal design of martingale collars that basically has a loop that's like cinches and tightens, we don't like that, because it can get caught in crates and can get caught in other things, and like is way too loose or way too tight, and you can't adjust it.
Yeah, and it tends to cause the collar to kind of like move around down here, which messes up our leash.
If you want a collar to look great, you can't have it like dangling either.
Mm-hmm.
So we have come up with a very, very special design that makes a martingale collar work even quicker with the release than the usual ones. It makes it look way cooler than your standard martingale
They
collars.
will be color matched with the leashes.
They will be color matched with the leashes, and they will come in 5 different sizes, from the teeny tiny 3-pound Pomeranian we have right now to the extra large 170-pound horse like George.
I'll take George. I'll take George. I'll take George.
I miss you.
Yeah.
But basically, we have prototypes coming in a few weeks. So if you're seeing this, look, I'm so excited for you to see the first photos of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we will take you again on a journey of making it the best that it can be out there.
Yeah.
But that's our next project, and it's going to be the dream team.
When she says dream team, she means leash and collar. We're kind of the dream team as well, the whole team. But anyways, one thing I want to get to, anybody who's just received their collar, and I've gotten a lot of videos and pictures back, and what I've seen is a lot of folks using, like, whether choke chains, flat buckle collars, or martingales that are very loose. And what ends up happening is that causes the collar with the D-ring to hang way down like this, which means that if your prong collar's up here with your carabiner attached, and then your backup strap is having to go all the way down here, what it's going to cause is it could possibly cause the backup strap to impede the action of the carabiner primary leash correction or communication device, the way it's constructed. And so what I'd like to suggest for anybody who's experimenting and finding that might be a problem, whether they've extended the backup strap as far as they can, start looking at the actual collar that it's hooking to, because that's way more important. And if you've got that backup collar, if it's a flat collar, keep it snug. If it's a dominant dog collar, keep it snug. If it's a martingale, if it's a martingale collar, keep it snug. Anything that's hanging super loose, it's going to start to like go down further on the neck and come out this direction, which means that your prong collar carabiner's up here, and then your backup strap has to come all the way down here, which can really impede the action of it. That's not how it's designed. So we need both of those things to like really work together. So if you're having any trouble, make sure you take a look at that first, adjust those collars and get them right on the money, so that the leash actually works exactly how it's meant to be. So I think that's my last thing. I think I'm ready to rock and roll into question number 1. Yes. Are you, even if you're angry with me and the brownies?
I'm not angry.
You've worked through it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you call your therapist? Like a lifeline?
I tried.
He ate the brownies again.
He does not answer my phone calls anymore. I wonder why.
Yeah, because he's like, I know what day it is. He ate the brownies again. He's like, we'll get back to her later.
It's Thursday night.
It's Thursday night, and you know what happened was, the whole, let me just lay this out before the camera runs out of gas. The whole reason all of this went down, all of these problems, is because our place, Nola Cookie Company, is closed tonight. If Nola Cookie Company wasn't closed tonight, yeah, the day we shoot, one fucking day, then we would have been great. We would have had cookies for everyone.
Last week we ordered 6 cookies.
You don't need to try and make me look bad.
He ate 5 of them.
There's no need to elevate yourself above me by saying that. I feel like you're trying to demonize me.
No, because like you work out twice as hard as I do, which is why you can have twice as many cookies. But then let me have that one cookie that I allow myself, and that one brownie.
I did. I let you have one cookie last time.
No, half. That's the whole point here.
Oh.
Okay, doesn't matter.
Okay. Anyways, okay. Do we need to pause this to make sure that we don't, like, we're going to pause this just to make sure that we don't run out of camera juice. We're going to jump into question 1 because this has been a nice, brief, not introduction. Let's rock.
Are you ready? Miss Chanochet?
Did you say miss?
Miss Chanochet.
Oh, okay, Miss her. Yeah.
Just like other people call me Miss Sean.
Only with Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Because you're on my account.
Or door furniture.
They're like, that guy Sean, he sure does eat a lot. It's always cookies and pizza and like I've been framed.
Door Furniture Company calls me Mrs. O'Shea.
Aw, how sweet.
So sweet.
You're like, yeah.
Okay, anyway. Question number 1 is on Facebook from Kelsey Craft. And Kelsey is asking, how do you balance structured behavior while still maintaining the personality of the dog? In other words, how do you separate training from shutting a dog down?
Okay.
Take it away.
So, and I shall. This is such a super common concern. And it makes sense, and I get it. And I think what's still happening is that people are connecting training, asking a dog to do this, this, and this, have structure, have rules, have leadership, have accountability, and that if you incorporate that into your daily life, you're slowly going to suppress who your dog actually is. And I can't tell you guys how wrong that is. All you're going to do is like, your crazy, silly, fun, goofy, like nutty dog, he's still there. All you're doing is adding the extra parts, which are like polite, courteous, listening, impulse control, all that stuff. So you're not, the perception is like, here's my good dog. And then we pound it down with all of these rules. And then all that's left is this groveling, sad dog. But that's not the case at all. No, I haven't seen it either. That's not the case at all. What you typically see are dogs becoming more relaxed, more fun, and they're actually like, wow, I can have a big life, and I'm not stressed about the world, and I'm not worried about the door.
And you give them the slightest, like, tiny bit. You go, hey, do you want? And they're like, I'm ready to be all crazy and jumpy and fun again. Like,
oh, as far as like turning them on?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing, and you've heard me talk about it. It's in my book as well, and many posts. It's like, and Tori Smith stole this, and I had to like threaten her with legal action.
Oh my goodness.
And it was like, and she did it innocently, so I forgave her. But it was, motion is easy, stillness is hard. Mm-hmm. And I know that might sound like a ridiculous oversimplification, but like stillness for a dog is exceptionally hard. Motion, running, playing, barking, gallivanting, that's a piece of cake. But getting a dog to actually incorporate these other pieces where they learn how to slow down, be calm, be relaxed, chill themselves out, and have some impulse control when the world around them starts to get a little nutty, and just stay cool, that is a completely different thing. That doesn't remove personality. It doesn't suppress your dog's spirit. It doesn't crush who your dog is. Instead, it actually helps bring that true dog to the fore. And that might sound like, oh, he's giving this like really nice sheen to this. But I'm telling you the truth. The truth is, like, You've got the dog who's very easily going to engage in bratty behaviors and whatever other kind of behaviors and crazy, nutty behaviors that you don't like or that are problematic. And then all you do is you bring on the balance point and you just put them in balance. You're not talking about, bam, you're talking about here they are living side by side in harmony. You're talking about putting both of these priorities on par in the same kind of zone. In that way, you can have a dog that you can turn on and have a blast with, and then turn off, and not in a suppressed way, but turn off in the fashion of like, okay, he's not going to be reactive. Okay, he's not going to jump on guests. Okay, he's not going to run through the house and like knock things over. It's like putting things in balance. So I'd love for people to really wrap their heads around the fact that good training, let me clarify. The only way you'd get this, the only way you'd get like a broken spirited dog that seems to be what everybody's afraid of, is if you walked around and for no reason at all, no contingency as far as like this behavior begets this. It's just random corrections, random consequences, random punishment. If you just did that, yeah, you might create a dog that's like unsure and worried and concerned about like, I don't know what to do because everything gets me into trouble. But when it's like, here's fun time, here's party time, this is great, and here's the other stuff, and I need to abide by these rules, and as long as I do this, this, and this, everything's like aces, it's crystal clear for your dog. And instead of suppressing or crushing your dog's personality, you actually bring your complete holistic dog. It sounds a little fluffy, but you bring them all to the fore, and then you end up with the best dog rather than just one or the other. And I'd love for you to hold on to that. And not just you, but so many other people struggle with that. And they're actually afraid to train their dog because they're afraid they're going to lose some part of their dog that they love so much, the goofy, friendly, sweet part. And we're going through that with Billy right now, our youngster. She's 17 years old, 17.
Oh,
She's only been driving for a little while. She's 17 weeks old. Jesus Christ. She's 17 weeks old. It just came out. She's 18 weeks old. She's 18 weeks old. And so we're having to strike that balance ourselves, right? She's super sweet. She's super cute. She's super fun. We love her to death, but we actually...
She also does stupid things.
Yeah, she does a lot of things that are like pushy. She's pushy with the other dogs and we have to go after her. She's pushy with sometimes guarding certain things. She's pushy with being over exuberant. And so she's pushy at growling at people occasionally. She's still in kind of like a little bit of a fear period. Yeah, she's still a little uncomfortable, but it doesn't matter. Like we sat on the porch today and we just sat there and watched people walk by, and she would like start off like, I was like, not our dog. And like, boom, finger correction or hand correction. And she's like, yeah, don't do that. And so we did that a couple times. And then all of a sudden people started walking by, and here's what you get. They walk by, she's still uncomfortable. It doesn't just magically go away. She's still uncomfortable, and she goes a little bit like this. And any of the bleeding hearts out there would be like, yeah, she's punished. She's been ruined. She's just ducking down to try and avoid more abuse and more punishment. No, what she's doing is, I'm not sure about that thing over there, and it worries me. But I know I'm not allowed to bark, growl, and carry on. So I'll just kind of like hang out and just kind of like take it easy. And then what do? We mark it. Good. We don't mark like when she's like a mess. We mark as soon as she like lets the person pass and doesn't react and doesn't go into a negative space and actually handles it like more of a mature dog. And then we're like, good girl, good girl. And she's like, oh, okay. So we're creating hot and cold, clear, black and white for her about you can't do that, but when you do this, you get good stuff. And then she's like, oh, I want the good stuff, and I don't want to be corrected for the bad stuff. And everybody's like, oh, you're just suppressing the fear. Oh, it's just like you're suppressing the growl. It'll come out later. It'll be this, it'll be that. It's all bullshit. Just tell your dog what you like. Tell your dog what you don't like. be meaningful and believable in both fashions, be neutral emotionally, and watch your dog fucking thrive. It's really that fucking simple.
I think all of our dogs in that matter are like that. Like the border collies know exactly how to behave. They know when there's dogs out being trained. They don't walk up. They don't do any silly things, or just don't behave silly in any kind of fashion. But as soon as like the ball comes out, the leashes come out,
it's crazy time.
or like Sean wants to like play with them in bed, like wrestle around with them, then it gets pretty hairy in the truest sense of
in the fun sense of the word. But
Samson, Shelby's dog, she like has trained up perfectly, but he comes out of the room tap dancing all over the house, and he's still Samson.
Yeah. So it's just, let me just close this out. This concept of training, suppressing or crushing the spirit of the dog is so much monkey business. It's so much fear tactics that have been pushed on you guys. I wish I could help you guys see like what our world looks like and what it looks like when you're training a bunch of dogs that are not in a good space or misbehaving, and then how they end up actually incorporating both sides of the coin. I shouldn't do this, I should do this, and then all of a sudden they're in a really great space, and that's what we're going on. That's what we're moving through with Billy. And it's a challenge, but it's a great challenge. It's great. Like for me as a dog trainer, I've never really raised a puppy. So it's cool to watch her go through these fear periods. It's cool to watch her, who's confident in many contexts, struggle. And then like, even though I'm like, oh, she's so cute. Like, no, that's not okay. I don't want her to live that way, and I don't want to live that way with her. I do not serve her by being soft. I serve her by being firm and by being strong and guiding her and saying, that is not allowed. And then, boom, she pulls it back, and then she gives better work. She does a better job. She makes better choices. And then we start moving her in a better direction towards the best Billy. And so I hope that helps. I hope it helps, because it's one of those ubiquitous questions. And so many people are afraid to train their dogs because they've been told you'll lose the spirit of your dog. It's all bullshit. And so, hope that helps. Where's my water?
This is sign for, baby, can you please get me my water?
Okay. Right.
One thing before we jump back into question number 2, is like, if you guys see me like doing hair stuff, it's not because I'm here, oh, like my hair is so great. It's because literally I have a thing with my scalp and my hair roots. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's as if like it starts to feel like I have something in my head, so I do that to like stop the feeling.
So we've got a good phone number for a psychiatrist, and we're going to get her straight into some help and figure out what's going on. But just so you know, you see some hair stuff, and at least you're straightforward with it. Best news, you're not doing the head bob today.
Oh yeah, that was because I'm checking. I'm trying to see the screen of the camera. Oh, this time is this way around. I'm just trying to see the.
I hear you. I'm on your team.
He's on my head bobbing team.
Okay, let's rock.
Question number 2. From Sarah on Facebook. When you have your dog in
Tell
place...
me real quick, did I turn this off?
No.
Okay, just checking.
When you have your dog in a place and down command, dog gets off after a period of time. Didn't catch him early enough as I walked out of the room, but is too far off to just give the place command. Do you do come, sit, close to the original place area, then place down command? Thanks. What, do you have a different question?
I don't have that.
Yes, it's right here, baby. Sarah. What happens when your e-collar trip?
Are we only on the second question?
Yes.
Who talked for the last hour on one question? Sorry, guys. Sorry. Anybody listening to the podcast, like, you should turn it off because obviously I'm just running off at the mouth. Okay. Could I hear that one more time? Okay. Seeing as now I know that we are at the very beginning of the show, even though I've done 2 hours of yakking. Sorry.
When you have your dog in place and down command, but the dog gets off after a certain period of time, but you didn't catch the dog because you walked out of the room. Is it so the dog is too far off to just give the place command? So do you then do a come and sit close to the original place area, then place down command?
Okay, so it really depends on some details here. So if your dog is fully e-collar trained, and I mean fully, I don't mean like you press the button and you hope and cross your fingers that they come or they do what you're asking for, but I mean like you've gone all the way to the corrective phase, which is you give the command, and if the dog doesn't respond, you give it again with a correction. And that's kind of the final frontier. So if you're at that space where your dog knows place and knows that if it steps off, there's a correction, then you're kind of at the final frontier. So we'll have to assume that that's where you're at. That said, how we move from that final kind of frontier into a finalized dog is a bunch of baby steps. And so if a dog is in place, and if I'm not mistaken, she says she leaves the room and the dog breaks, right?
Yes. But the question is, so when the dog is off, like, what do you do then? Do you like...
I know, but here's the deal. You can't just walk out of the room straight away. So if you're training place, right? How long does it take for you with an e-collar dog to feel comfortable to like waltz into the next room? I mean, of course, it depends on the dog.
Yeah, I mean,
but I want you
like
to
on the fifth, sixth day maybe.
Right, and then that might be just for a moment.
But then before I do that, I like pretend I'm leaving. So I would like hide and then come back, or like hide here, tipper correct, and then say no, then recall the dog so the dog follows me, and then go to place and say place and down.
What's tipper tapper?
So I would hear like the nails on the wooden floor.
I just had to find out. Okay, so here's my deal. I work the dog through all the basic work with the leash and prong, make sure the dog knows all the commands. Then I overlay the e-collar on top of it, and I do it at low level pressure. Then I slowly start to ask the dog for more and more higher and higher levels of compliance, and say we're just doing place command. What I want to do is I want to start, before I try and do anything like leaving the room, I want to have the dog in place, and I want to walk around in circles. I want to pet the dog. I want to like maybe give him a tickle. I want to say like, hey, Frisky, how you doing? That's a terrible name for a dog. Hey, Frisky, how you doing? And like get his attention. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to elicit a response where your dog then has to manage itself. Too many owners are like robots moving around the dog. I don't want to move too fast. I don't want to say anything because the dog will break. No, that's the point. The point is like do stuff that makes it hard for your dog. Do stuff that will cause your dog to break so you can correct. And everybody's like, oh, that's so unfair. You set your dog up. Yes, how else are you going to train your dog except for when he like streaks out of the room and then you're going to correct him? That's not the time to correct him. You've missed 1,000 moments. This needs to be, if you get nothing else from this question, think about dog training as being this just like tiny little increments of progress. That's the whole deal. And so if I'm doing place and I've moved to e-collar, then I've got the leash in my hand and I might like walk up, touch, back away, look at the dog, eye contact, backwards motion. I might walk quick circles around the dog, no leash pressure, make sure that leash is just dangling so the dog doesn't get a mixed message of like, I should come with you or anything like that. Do a bunch of stuff like that. Then when the dog can handle that, then you start moving further away, further away, further away. Then you walk over, you knock on the front door. Then you go over to the kitchen, you rattle a food bag. Then you go over to the dog, you give him a little bit of like an excited, like, hey, how you doing, buddy? Frisky, how you doing, Frisky? And you get the dog excited. But if the dog steps off, no, and you correct with e-collar straight away. And that goes for any of these corrections. So once the dog is at the corrective level, if they're in place, I walk up to the door, knock, 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 dog barks, whines, or moves, no. Like, I want to catch them the split second they do it, and I'll get to if the dog moves. But that's what you want to do. You don't want to wait until the dog is out of the room or follows you out of the room. Like, that's your worst approach. Your best approach is like baby steps and let the dog make a tiny little move. You're ready for it. Correct with a no at a level your dog cares enough about and has been prepped with enough repetition to where the dog goes, I know exactly what to do, and backs back up onto place. And then you walk a little bit further. Maybe you go into the kitchen and you do some dishes, or you work on your computer, or the kids are running around. Like, you're basically just trying to add life to the whole situation and teach your dog, no matter what goes on, you're not allowed to move. Now, if you just teach your dog place, and I don't know if you teach them with food or if you taught them with prong, and then I know you said e-collar, but I don't know how you went about the process. The entire arc has value. And then if you haven't done this in a really comprehensive, detailed fashion, and then you walk out of the room, it's very easy for your dog to just follow you out because you haven't incrementally built up this tolerance to say, I shouldn't follow you. And so if there's anything I can get to like really land with you is to get that perception of like, you have to build up that incremental little tolerance of like, mom can do anything, or dad can do anything, or the kids can do anything. They can walk around, they can touch, they can laugh, they can run, they can knock, they can open the refrigerator, rattle a bag of food, do some vacuuming, and then they can like Marta was saying, step out, like just out of the hallway and back, right? And then step out of the hallway a few more steps and back, right? All of this stuff, it's just incremental. What we find owners doing over and over and over again are moving way too fast. And then, would you agree with me?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Or not just moving too fast, but being way too cautious, like tiptoeing around the dog. It's like
so that's the alternative,
like
right?
trying not to do anything that will disrupt the dog being in place. But instead, it's almost like instead of going like, oh, how can I make it easy? It's like, how can I make it the hardest, the most real life thing for you?
That's what you're suggesting, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of having anxiety about, oh, what if he breaks? It's like,
right.
Go on, break place. I'll correct you for it, though.
Which is what I was getting at. So Marta's saying that there's basically two roads that owners go down. They go down the road of like, I'm not going to push too hard. I'm going to stay really close. I'm going to, if the dog steps off a place, I'm going to say no, and I'm going to step into him with some spatial pressure, and the dog moves back. And they're going to make it very easy. They're going to keep the kids quiet. They're not going to go to the door. They're not going to leave the room.
Anxiety within all the owners.
Exactly, but what I really want you to get is that you have these two choices. You have the choice to like tiptoe around it and not help your dog build up the strength, the behavioral strength and the patterning and the ability to deal and tolerate with this, or you can actually teach your dog how to be strong and confident and able and resilient and to ignore whatever's going on and have so much impulse control that it doesn't matter what goes on. But all I can say is that that happens in tiny little baby steps. So if you want to leave the room, work your way to leaving the room. Do it by touching, do it by moving away, do it by fast circles, do it by tiny little stuff. And if your dog steps off or even gets up, your dog's on place, you move around him, he gets up, no. Boom, put him back down. Don't say, walk around and then, oh, he's up, but he hasn't stepped off place, so we'll let that go. No way. That's the beginning of the end. If your dog is on place and gets up because you're moving around, he's fixing, as they say, he's fixing to get off there. So correct with a no, get him back into a lockdown down position, and then start to build from there and build from there. And if you're incremental about it, and if you're using levels on your e-collar that are valuable to your dog, and if you've taught your dog fairly what the e-collar means, you shouldn't have any problem if you do this fairly and incrementally, training the dog how to stay in place.
Just quickly, I'm sorry, but just
Yeah.
quickly. Basically what we do though is, let's say I have a dog on place here and I'm in the kitchen doing something, the dog gets up, I haven't seen him, and he's over there somewhere. I wouldn't recall the dog to come to me and have him sit and then have him go to place with me. I would just say, if he's over there, I would just say come, so that he follows me, but I wouldn't wait for him to physically be here so that I can move with him, but I would make it in like an organic, have him recall and follow me as I walk to place, and then say place down. So it's not like, oh, you're over there, but I'm here, recall, sit, walk over, place down. It's more, it's much more organic. Recall in a follow, we walk together to place, and then down.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I think I missed the point of what the main part of the conversation was. My hope was that by answering it in a deeper fashion, that maybe it 100%. Would offer more value. Yeah. But Marta brings up a great point, and that's that if your dog does break, you don't flip out, you don't yell, you don't lose your cool. You just, wherever you find your dog, you call them and put them back in place. And I think she was asking, do I put them in a sit before I put them on?
That's what I meant.
Right. So it's like, so if I walk back into the room and the dog's in, down the hallway, for one, here's what I would do differently than most. If the dog's been patterned to place and I find the dog in the bedroom, no. Physical consequence. You know better. You should not be over there. And people be like, oh my God, he's been there for 3 minutes. He's got no idea. Yes, he does. He's got a huge idea. So from there, correction. Now the dog's like, uh-oh, I messed up. Then recall, come, Francis, and then place, and then down, and you're done.
I'm so glad you didn't try to call Billy Francis or Frisky.
No. No, Francis is only for my mystery dogs.
Okay, question number 3 is actually from our contact form from Megan. And Megan purchased the e-collar DVDs and is working through the program, but is having some trouble. So we want to help her out with that. So I'm going to read her message. And Megan, just like don't breathe for 10 seconds. Try to hold it in. And hold your breath.
Everybody thinks I'm drinking like vodka. It's just tap water.
Yeah, but just hold your breath in. Hold your breath instead of laughing. Oh my God.
I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Okay. Listen. We have had Sweetie for about 4... Hold your breath until I finish the message.
Okay.
We have had Sweetie for about 4 years. Mel for about 1 since she was, 5 months. Sweetie's low energy and easygoing, but dog aggressive. She was fine with Mel when we got her and has been fine up until a few months ago. She has some crate anxiety, so she stays in our garage when we are not home and sleeps on her bed in the living room at night with no issues. Mel is high energy, obviously still young, and is admittedly a bratty dog. She is crate trained and does well with her crate besides some barking, which we are working on training now with your program, and she sleeps in the crate. Okay, now the issues. Several months ago, they got out of the yard while we were gone, and Sweetie heard another dog on our street. Then about 3 months ago, Mel and Sweetie started fighting. We were able to do some counter conditioning to get them to be content around each other again with supervision. We know they can't be alone together anymore. But about 3 weeks ago, they started fighting again. I came across your videos and watched several of them before purchasing the e-collar video training program. I have done a lot of the basic prong work you talk about in your free videos, and I am on day 4 of the e-collar training program. Starting last night and today, the dogs are starting to kind of shut down when we start the active training, mainly Mel. She will just lay on the floor and refuse to move or participate. I have dialed up from the starting level of about 5 to 6 to almost 25 with a let's go and body movement, and still got nothing from her. She's not distracted or anything, So I don't want to go up too much further because that feels like strong arming her. I don't need the high level to pull her attention back. I have her attention. She just stares and refuses to move, no matter the prong or e-collar pressure. I didn't see anything about this in the training program, so I was wondering what you would recommend. I realize that your time is valuable, but I feel like I should be forward about the fact that we can't afford a 4-hour phone consultation. I was pulling teeth with my husband just to order the videos online, and he's done spending money on it. He wanted to rehome Mel to avoid the safety issue of the fighting around our kids. I want to do a local boarding train to jumpstart their training and fix the issues for both dogs, so this is our compromise. I was just hoping for an ideal strategy to get past the super stubborn, non-motivated pups. Thank you.
Well, I'd be lying if I said that I could follow much of what you just said, because I was battling hiccups the whole time.
Okay.
So give me a brief overview. And,
So
and I mean, no disrespect on the magnitude of what you just shared, but it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
And,
so basically you have
and I'm trying to consult my
dogs,
notes.
one that is softer,
Yeah.
but is attacking other dogs, is dog aggressive. Then you got a younger dog that is more bratty, but those two dogs started fighting. But the younger one, that is the bratty dog, Megan is just starting to work her through the e-collar program, but basically as she's trying to teach her, the male will just lie down, and no matter the e-collar or prong pressure she gives, she won't give to the pressure, she will just lie there and not move.
Yeah.
But also the crate is an issue here because both dogs should be crated.
Okay, so she's using our e-collar program?
Yes, 4th day of e-collar.
4th day. So there's so many variables here. I remember when I was doing my very first e-collar work with my dogs, and I was actually working with a very experienced trainer, and who will go nameless. And we were working to get very, very basic stuff happening, which was just the beginnings of recall with my dogs, Junior and Oakley. And this trainer, who, like I said, will go nameless and has a ton of information on the net, and actually helped me through his information on the net, much more so than it's actually the only dog training lesson or session I ever took. And it taught me very clearly that that was probably not the best way to spend my money or my time, was by doing that. So my point is that stuff, getting a dog to give to pressure, prong, e-collar, like being able to do the dance of pressures on the e-collar at a level your dog's not worried about, a little bit of directional guidance with the leash, slowly as you press and hold, dialing up, repeating the command come, so your dog knows what to do. So your dog's, if you think about it this way, your dog's feeling a sensation, going, what do I do about that? The leash is saying come this direction, and you're saying come. So you use it like that, and as your dog starts to come towards you, off goes the button, the leash relaxes, and unless you need a little more guidance, and you mark it, good, praise, and the dog comes in, things like that. So that's kind of the basic of it, but boy, like that description is an incredible oversimplification. When you're dealing with dogs that are stubborn, like I've dealt with a boxer that was like, literally, we were doing one-on-ones back in the day in North Hollywood, and his sister, they were siblings. The sister was like happy to work and like working at like an 8 or a 10 and like doing these great recalls, and the brother was like, yeah, I'll see you later, buddy. Like that was the attitude. I was like, wow, this dog is so incredibly stubborn. And some folks will say, well, you didn't motivate him. It's like, well, you can get into a whole discussion about that. Like for me, if I'm working with a dog and the dog needs to be recalling to me or the owner, it's like, I shouldn't have to have a toy, food, or praise to make that dog actually comply with what I'm looking for. Yeah,
of dogs.
and so this dog was working at like, and it's going to sound crazy, but was working at like an 80 and didn't care. Literally just sat there like this. And we're like, is that thing on? And we checked it, and we checked it. And so my point of sharing that is that there are dogs out there that are more challenging than others. And I had pretty damn good experience with an e-collar, prong, long line, recall, all of these different behaviors, and it was still a struggle. So it's hard to say exactly why she's having trouble with the one dog who's what, like, is it like pancaking or just like freezing?
I don't know.
But it's just kind of stopping as far as like it's not complying. So you have to really kind of dive into what do you bring into the table, and I would suggest maybe breaking out a video if you can. Get a video camera out and see what you're doing. What's like, see if I can dive into this without derailing this too much. When you're working, like, say we're just going to focus on recall. There are so many different little pieces of that puzzle that if they're not done right, don't work. So if I stand there and my timing on the e-collar and my levels on the e-collar and my pressure on the prong and my verbal tone are all right on the money, which is not easy. And I'm telling you, it is not easy to get all of those right and then roll up as needed. If you're doing that and you've got all those right, but yet your body motion is like static, you're not moving backwards, you're not leaning down. So I'll give a little like this kind of thing, eye contact, leaning down. So in a perfect world, if you're trying to get a dog to move towards you, you're trying to bring to bear everything that you have to help the dog understand, move towards me. So e-collar pressure, a little bit of light leash and prong pressure, verbal command so the dog understands you're asking something of me, right? And a lot of people are like, don't add a command because the dog doesn't know. I think it's much more helpful if you do add a command earlier on because the dog's like, what are they looking for? And then you help them complete the task. But you also need to do eye contact, leaning down, bending down, and then moving backwards as you're doing it. And when you do all of those things in concert, you pull the dog towards you. And if you miss any of those things, if any one of them are out of place or out of play, you can really struggle getting that dog to comply with you. And all of a sudden you're like, well, the e-collar's not working or the prong's not working or my dog's stubborn. It's like, it could be, but it could also very well be that you're just not able to put a multitude of very complex things. Like we always talk about dog training being simple, but there's a few maneuvers that take some serious dance moves, some serious coordination, some serious multitasking that all has to go down at one time. So I don't know, does that answer the question, do you think?
I have a few suggestions to make if
Yeah,
you mind me.
yeah.
Just when I think about what I would do if there was the dog that we would have here for a board and train. First thing I would like to start with is I wouldn't call that your dog being shut down as you put it in the contact form, because that is not a dog being shut down. Your description of your dog was saying, admittedly, that it's a bratty dog. A bratty dog that sits there, no matter what pressure you give it, is not being shut down or worried.
It's being
just
resistant.
like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
To put it simple, it's like the dog doesn't want to do what you're asking it to do. It's not shut down. So I would play around with, like, instead of doing pressure, some dogs are so good at tuning out pressure to where if you're rolling really slowly, it's just like taking it and making
it's like slow.
Yeah, and they just get used to it. So instead of doing that, I would try roll up really quick, not too high, but really quick, or just go higher taps. So instead of going from 5, 6 to 25, I would tap at a 5, tap at a 20, just to give it a movement like that. So you get it over the hump.
Little startle response.
Yeah, and once you have the startle response over and done with, you might only have to tap at a 5 and a 6 because you have gotten over that big hump that you needed.
Yeah.
But also I see lots of clients here also saying, come, and then stand like that, and the dog is like, what
and
do
that's
you
what
want
I
me to
was
do?
trying to get at.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But even if you would like lean over, go into this kind of position and bend forward a bit, make it more exciting. If you just
and
like,
then move backwards, that's like the critical component. Everybody misses this. How many times have you watched a dog owner do like, Francis, come, and then they
freeze.
stand there like that, and the dog's like, what you talking about, Willis? And so like the whole deal is, as soon as you start moving, then the dog starts moving with you. And so it's a critical component, and it's an easy one to miss if you're not aware of what's going on. That's why it's great to have somebody help you out, another trainer or a partner or a video. And you could set up a video camera on a tripod or an iPhone. You could set it up, watch it, and go like, oh my God, like I'm so far away from what I thought I was doing, because it can feel like you're doing a whole bunch, and all of a sudden you look and you're like, I'm nowhere near what, like they were talking about, all of these different components that need to be put in play in order to get the dog working.
Both come and heel are movement commands. So if you stand stationary, it's not movement anymore. Come means move towards me. Heel means walk with me. Sit down place are stay there.
Stationary.
Come, stationary.
Yeah.
And come and here are both move. So that's why it's so critical. But play around with a few different things. Try moving.
Was she having a hard time with heel too?
No, I'm just...
Oh, okay. Just putting that out there. Yeah.
So try drastic taps to get your dog over the hump, because I promise you your dog is not shut down if it's bratty. It's just not wanting to do it. Try maybe even moving really fast. Instead of walking slowly, try pretending to run with the leash to get it more movement. Try a bunch of different things. Try not to get yourself stuck on this is how it's supposed to be. It's great if it works like that, but if it doesn't, we gotta get creative, find different motivations where you can still incorporate the e-collar, because what you're doing right now is just teaching. So teaching can look very differently from dog to dog. We're just trying in the e-collar DVDs to make it simple, but it can vary from dog to dog.
Yeah. So two things before we wrap this. Boy, we are so good.
One last thing before Sean jumps into his last thing is, I would 100% recommend you crate the other dog too. Yes, I know you said the dog is easier going and sweet, but the dog is dog aggressive, and because it has crate issues, it should be crated.
Yep.
Not to make the life hard on the dog, but to work the dog through the problems it's having. If crate is hard and he's barking or whatever it is.
What's hard is good.
Exactly.
It really is.
Even if you just like have the door open and sit there with the dog to where you can close the door, to where you can walk away. If it has to be baby steps, it has to be baby steps, but it's going to be super beneficial. If your two dogs are fighting, it's kind of like the key component, the foundation to like make it work in your home, to have both dogs be able to be crated and be comfortable in the crates.
Yeah, and last thing I was going to say, if it's true that you're using our e-collar DVD or streaming video program, you'll notice that the dogs we're using, they're shelter dogs. They're not trained, they're not food motivated. We didn't do any previous work with them. They're just like, we had a rescue bring them and off we went. And if you watch the video, you'll see a lot of what some people would say shut down dogs, and especially the gray one. I can't remember what his name changed as he was adopted out, but it's very easy to see a dog not happy to work and assume the dog is shut down. But I assure you, this dog was far from shut down. It's just the dog didn't enjoy doing, and I get it, the work is a bit tedious. The work is a bit like, this is really boring. I'm not interested in it. But that's half the value. Half the value is like, guess what? I know you don't like this, but you need to go from here to here to here to here and don't move, because I said so, because by doing what I ask you to do over and over again, it's going to help solidify our relationship. So for these little tiny things that are not very meaningful, when we start to move out to bigger things, when we're in campsites or on hikes or at the dog beach or whatever, and I say, come, boom, you jam on it. So, God, I wish I could remember the dog's name. But what's funny is that going back over that DVD, check it out. I think you'll find this funny. If you watch him, there's a moment where he actually jumps up onto the fireplace, just out of like, he's not scared, he's not freaked out, he's just like, F you. And he jumps up onto the fireplace, almost levitates, like, boom, like that. I was like, you don't say. Like, great for the DVD, you bastard. And what's funny is that, you know, later on in the day, he's out doing recalls, place to place to place to place to place to place to place. Why? So for one, he knew all the behaviors. He knew exactly what we asked of him. And the other part is that he enjoyed all this stuff. Now, I'm all for dogs enjoying the work, but I'm also for dogs like, even if you don't like it, it's still something that's necessary for you to do, because there's going to be things, just like with us, where dogs have to do things they don't like. So check out the DVD and watch for that stuff where you see a dog that you're like, he doesn't look so happy. And I catch plenty of hell for that, because I pick dogs on purpose, and I didn't do a bunch of food drive with them, gave them a tiny bit of food here and there, but I purposely didn't pick high food driven dogs in order to make everything look pretty. I wanted it to look like what most people would have dealing with shelter dogs or rescue adopted dogs that were kind of a mess. And so I hope that helps you. I hope you can kind of like maybe watch that back and forth and go like, oh yeah, he does look a mess. Oh, and then, oh yeah, he does look great. So it's not that he's shut down. He's just making choices to say, F you.
Yeah.
Cool?
Cool.
Cool.
Let's jump to question number
40?
41.
I'm not so sure we're quick with this.
We're not. Good, we don't have 20 questions. Question number 4 is on Instagram from Is Ream Time. My 2-year-old dog is smart but can be bullheaded. We have trouble on walks when he locks in on something and ignores any redirects. Is fixing this a matter of decreasing walk stimuli and increasing how attractive the redirect is, or would a correction be better to move his attention back to us? Rah, rah, rah. I can't read.
Read that one more time, even though you can't read it. My notes, I can't read even less than what you just read.
2-year-old dog is smart.
And this is which one? Yeah, right here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So 2-year-old dog is smart but bullheaded. Trouble on walks when he locks in on something and ignores redirect. Is fixing this a matter of decreasing walk stimuli and increasing how attractive the redirect is, or would a correction be better to move his attention back to us?
Gotcha. Okay, so I picked out this question for a very specific reason, and that's because what you've been told. We're still on? Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm always worried that I'm knocking things out. I put this question on here because what you've been told and what you're attempting is a very common and unfortunately very ineffective approach to working with dogs that have any kind of reactivity on the walks. So if I'm not mistaken, you said, help me work through this just because my memory is so porous. So she's got reactivity issues, and then she offers food.
No, just some kind of redirection.
Okay, whatever it is.
Like
it could be
whatever.
Affection. It could be
a toy. It could be.
It could be a toy.
Whatever.
It could be food. It could be turning the dog around. Doesn't matter. Here's the thing: redirection does not change the state of mind. All it does is derail that moment. All it does is like, there's that thing I like, and if you're lucky, and I mean really lucky, you might be able to get the dog to like look away for a second. But trust me, your dog hasn't forgotten about that other dog or cat or whatever the trigger is. This whole thing about redirecting is such a bunch of bullshit. And I'm sorry to be so crass, but I hear it over and over and over again, and it fucking infuriates me because it leaves owners hanging, trying to utilize a protocol that doesn't actually work. If you've got a dog misbehaving, if you've got a dog that's loading up, if you've got a dog that's triggering off of other things in the environment, redirecting doesn't change the way your dog feels about that stuff. All you're doing is praying that whatever you're doing to redirect, food, praise, toy, dance around, whatever it might be, will cause your dog to not think about that thing that it really wants to think about for a moment, and so you can get by. You haven't fixed anything. All you've done is tried to like get by. And there's a very, very, very big difference between getting by a situation and sorting a situation out. So we never try and redirect dogs, fucking ever. And once again, excuse my F-bombs, but I'm so adamant about this because so many people get fed this bullshit. It's like they go out, and I watch people, even here, we watch people like their dogs are walking down the street and they're acting like a-holes, and people are like, you know, look at me, or look, or watch me, or leave it, or whatever it might be. And they're trying to get the dog to take food, or they're talking to it, or they're soothing it, or whatever it is. And the dog's like, I don't even care. All I want to do is get a hold of that dog over there. The only way you get a dog in that space to behave in a different space is by punishing that state of mind. And that's the part nobody wants to hear. Nobody wants to hear that, like, okay, I've got a reactive dog who wants to trigger off of other things. Cat, dog, varmints, people, bikes, whatever. This is what I've got. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take this intense brain state and I'm going to try and offer rewards that are hopefully of a higher level than the way they feel emotionally. Good luck with that. Have you ever been really terrified? Have you ever been really worked up? Have you ever been really angry? Have you ever been really like confrontational? Have you ever really been upset about something and then somebody offers you a Hershey bar? Are you hungry? You want it? You want to take it? You want to take it? Or you want to take like, you're all right, you're good. Like, don't touch me. Like, leave me alone. Like, that's the common response. And I'm not trying to make a direct correlation between dogs and humans. What I'm trying to say is that when you are in an intense space, food, praise, distraction, any kind of thing like that, or what did she call it? Not distraction. Redirect. God, I hate that word. But I'm going to hold myself together. Any kind of redirect like that is not going to get you what you want. Now, if you've got, and I'll add one addendum to that, and that's that if you've got the world's mildest dog, if you've got a dog who really doesn't care about any of the triggers, who just kind of like looks and gets goofy and like, oh, there's a cat, or there's a dog, or whatever, or I don't like that bike, but this is the behavior. And you're like, that's a problem. We've got to get him to redirect. And, you know, not the way of biting you redirect, but like, let's redirect him with some food. And your dog's like happily doing it. You don't have a serious dog. All you've got is a cupcake that barely gives a crap about any of that stuff. So if you've got a dog who barely gives a crap about any of that stuff,
you wouldn't be asking this question here.
Well, you might be surprised. So,
really?
Yeah, if you've got a dog who's a cupcake, who is giving you these behaviors and you're trying to redirect, then I would say that you have a chance of making that work if you really do that right with high value stuff. Only with cupcakes. If you've got a dog who's absolutely got anything under the hood as far as like seriousness about, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, it makes me feel like this, and you're going to try and offer something to try and override that with a higher value thing, you're going to lose every single time. What will happen that will work is to punish that. And once again, like I said 5 minutes ago, it is the part that nobody wants to hear, because all people want to do is teach their dog, because teaching is good. Teaching is pleasant. Teaching is kind. Teaching is a higher form of interaction with your dog, rather than this brutal punishment, which is like a prong collar correction, or a knee collar correction or something like that, and your dog's like, oh, you don't want me to do that? Okay, I probably shouldn't be doing that. And then you can move through it, and then you don't have to have a reactive dog, and then you don't have to deal with all this silliness. And so that's our approach with that. We don't do any redirect. If you watch any of our videos with reactive dogs, like look up Peanut on the Good Dog Training, you won't see Peanut being given food in order to not want to attack the other dogs. What happened? We corrected Peanut significantly. We put Peanut under pressure and then corrected Peanut significantly for trying to go after other dogs. Eventually, as we patterned that, Peanut was like, you know what? I'm not so into that. Cool. And we walked by the dogs and Peanut was like, I'd like a little room. Ah, very cool. Let's move away from them. And Peanut was like, thanks, I appreciate that. And next thing you know, Peanut was walking past dogs that Peanut used to blow up and do backflips and do all sorts of stuff and go crazy. So where did it come from? It didn't come from trying to appease the dog with bribes or any kind of redirection. It came strictly through punishment, the thing that nobody wants to hear. And if you want to add to that, feel free.
The only thing I want to add to that is that just by reading that, it just makes me sad that people walk in that kind of fashion with their dogs, where a walk is not a pleasant thing to enjoy with your companion that you have for 15 years. You can't, instead of like just walking down the street, walking for hours wherever you want to go, if it's to the mall, if it's to a cafe, if it's through a carnival, it's about decreasing walk stimuli. Means you're trying to hide from things per se. It's like, that's not a pleasant walk. That's you giving into your dog's, give me a word.
Giving into your dog's neurotic tendencies.
Yeah, just like instead of like, no, like this is what our walk is about. This is how it's going to look now, and we're going to both enjoy that. We're going to both be calm, and we're both going to have a great time together because you need to behave a certain way. Instead of that, people hide behind cars. People cross streets. People go after 10 p.m. for walks or at 5 a.m. and trying to constantly find something, food, toys, something, cross the street. Like, that's just not a nice way to live with your dog.
Why do you think people do that? Why do you think people do that rather than just like correct or lead them?
Most people just don't know. And it's a nicer thing.
There you go. The information's out there, and I'm not putting any heat on anybody, but the information is out there, but I'll be very honest that I understand that the information is unsavory, and the other information is very savory. Everybody would love to food, pet, toy, bribe, play, get their dog into a good space so much so that they didn't care about anything else out there. And like I said, for those cupcake dogs, you might be able to get there. But the reality is if that worked for all these serious dogs, don't you think we'd all be doing it? Like, who wouldn't want to be out with a piece of chicken and having a dog that goes ballistic at another dog, and you just be like, the dog's like, I don't even care about him anymore. Thanks. But it doesn't work. So if you want to make progress, if you want to get your dog through to a different space, examine what's standing in your way. Is it that you don't know, like Marta said, as a possibility, that you don't know what your possibilities are, that you only think that this is your option, that you have to redirect because you've read so much stuff on the internet that's conflicting? Or, which is a huge one, are you afraid to lead your dog? Are you afraid to punish your dog? Are you afraid to actually be firm and heavy with your dog while still loving your dog and helping your dog move to a space where you can actually have these nice walks? And if that means like, boom, you have to lay down a couple of firm corrections and your dog's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. It's like, no, you can't do that anymore. And then you enjoy like walks for the next 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years. Like, that's what I'll take. I've been on both sides. I've been on the side where I hid behind trees. I've been on the side where I hid behind cars. I've been on the side where I've been drug on my ass across the park with flexi leashes on two giant dogs like an idiot. I've been on the side where I didn't want to do any of the stuff that made my dogs uncomfortable. And then I made the switch and I did the work, and I got my dogs to a place where we could walk anywhere around any dogs and have zero reaction. And I'm telling you, the two choices, one of them is way, way, way better. And the one of being able to include your dog in your life and go anywhere without stress is way better. But it takes stepping up and stepping into being heavy and being firm and being unapologetic and not feeling any guilt and just leading your dog. So I hope that helps.
Question number 5?
Yeah, please.
Okay, question number 5 is on Instagram from Breathe Fitness. Hi, my dog has 2 bites on his record that seem to come out of nowhere. One bite was on a new trainer that had him off leash in a sit and was tossing treats at him. She went into her pocket to get another treat and he jumped up and bit her arm. I know treat training does not work with my dog. The other bite happened when I was trying to work him slowly to get used to my new boyfriend and things were going well until they weren't. My boyfriend was petting him next to the couch and he jumped up and bit him. I've been told that this is the worst kind of behavior, to bite without warning, no growl. But then I have been told that a warning doesn't matter. There must be something about the situation. What are your thoughts? I don't see my dog as aggressive, as I have done my homework and learned about his type of behavior. I feel he wants new people to go away and using his mouth and the way he knows how to make that happen. I've seen him both react out of nowhere and also with reason. I'm curious to hear your expertise on this type of reactive behavior. Side note, per your awesome recommendations, my dog Jax is scheduled for his 5-week board and train with Solid Canine, and I couldn't be more excited. Thanks for all you do. You bring so much hope to seemingly hopeless situations.
Well, she doesn't even need our help. She's off to see Jeffrey and the Solid Canine crew. So that was a really long question, and I had some great answers, and then it kept going and going and going and going. So let me just see if I can work my way through here. My dog has 2 bites on his record that seem to come out of nowhere. For one, they never come out of nowhere. 2, one bite was on a new trainer that had him off leash in a sit and was tossing him treats. Bad fucking idea. Why is that a bad fucking idea? Because it goes back to that same goddamn, you're going to hear a lot of fucking F-bombs, same goddamn fucking premise of, let's be friends. Let me build a bridge. Let me see if I can get a dog to feel good about me by giving him food. We'll create a positive association with a dog that wants to bite me. That's fucking genius. No, what it does is it creates a dog that's like, what the fuck are you up to? Why do you want to give me that? Dogs are super smart. They're like, why are you trying so hard? And then maybe it'll even take a little bit of the food. Like, sure, I'll take a little bit of that, and then I'll bite you for your trouble. Like, it's the dumbest strategy out there, and it's one of the most pervasive strategies. Like, let's create a positive association, toss food, toss food, toss food. And if you haven't corrected, punished, put a dog in a space where they truly understand where they sit in the status space of humans, dogs, clearly the humans here, the dogs here. If you haven't created that, what you have created is danger. Like, it's super clear. I've worked with a shit ton of dogs, and what I've watched is that people that try and work dogs through aggression or uncomfortable, negative spaces without first setting that tone, leave that door wide open. And that door is old patterns. That door is old habits. That door is old feelings. That door is old reactions, which all fold into, I don't like what you're doing right now. I don't even need to tell you why, but I'll bite you for it. And the human's like, but what am I doing? I'm doing all the nice stuff. It came out of nowhere. Bullshit. It didn't come out of nowhere. Your dog doesn't like any of the stuff that you're doing. You just don't know how to read it. And I don't mean this as an indictment to the person who wrote the question. This is more of a universal share for people that are out there trying like over and over and over again in rescues and shelters and fosters and just all over the place. Let me try and create a bridge through food. Like, as if food is the magical thing. If your dog is uncomfortable, if your dog is not in a good space, if your dog is not respectful, if your dog is not polite, if your dog doesn't give a shit about who humans are in the social structure, you're toast. It doesn't matter if you're throwing a steak at them. They'll take the fucking steak and they'll bite you. Like, it's so damn clear. That's why when dogs come in with any kind of nasty stuff, we work with them, we see what they get, we add a little pressure, because pressure is super important so you can find out who you got, what you got cooking, and who you got that you're working with. And then if they come at us, we correct and we let them know, knock the shit off, this doesn't fly, you cannot behave like this. What happens with that? Boom, pattern interrupt. It's really that simple. Pattern interrupt, which is like, I don't like this, so this is how I react. All of a sudden they show up with us and it's like, I don't like this, but maybe I need to think about it. And 99% of people watching this are going to be, well, they scared the dog and the dog's too afraid, and now he's suppressed, and he's going to suppress his growl, and he's going to suppress, any warning signs, and then it'll just lash out, and then it'll just bite unexpectedly, and that's where all this stuff came from. Bullshit. These people didn't do any of that. All they tried to do was the good stuff. All they tried to do is give food, build the bridge, be friends, and things like that. And then you've got a dog who's like, I don't want any of that, and I'll bite you for your trouble. So I take exception with the fact of it came out of nowhere, because I can promise you that if your dog was wandering around my house, I would absolutely not feel comfortable with your dog, and I would absolutely not feel like anything nefarious that came from your dog would be unpredictable or unexpected. It would be crystal clear. The fact that you don't notice it doesn't make it unexpected or doesn't make it come out of the blue. That's not a judgment. It's just that, like, if I was going to launch rockets, I don't know what the hell to look for, because that's not my expertise. And dog training is probably not your expertise, but after thousands of dogs, I know exactly what this, and this looks like. The slightest change, the slightest shift, the slightest different eye contact, the slightest different body language, the slightest like tension or closing of the mouth. I mean, all of it tells you something. And if you don't have that information, then it comes out of the blue. So I want to make sure you help me stay on target with this question, because it's kind of like
it's a hard one.
It's a hard one, but it's a loaded one. So I want to make sure primarily that we tackle the most important thing. And that is that if...
And even with your boyfriend sitting on the couch and petting the dog, like, let's say I'm sitting here and like petting the dog here, and at some point the dog is like, why, just like, instead of the dog moving away because he had enough, he's like, stop that. And the best way for him to do that is bite.
Especially if he's been allowed to bite, especially if he's been allowed, like, what people don't get are that every teeny tiny little moment of allowance leads to a bigger moment of allowance. So things you think are benign and don't matter and don't have any impact on the dog, next thing you know, your dog feels comfortable to nip, bite, growl, challenge you because of 400 other things that you did that you have no idea have any implication or any impact on your dog's behavior. But I promise you that they do.
Dogs are too smart to do things out of nowhere. They all have their reasons for why they do things.
Yeah, and a lot of dogs don't want to be fucking pet incessantly. Like, there's this thing where, okay, so I've got to build a relationship, so I've got to give him food, and then I've got to touch him. It's like, well, how about you just go put him in place? Well, yeah, but like, why don't you train him, go in place, and don't fucking move. That's where you go. And that's how we build a relationship. But nobody can connect that that is a relationship. It has to be this. It has to be this. Now we've got a relationship, right? It's like, here we go. Like, but all humor aside, that's like the way the relationship has to be. I have to be touching and I have to be giving you something, because if I do that, you're gonna like me. You're gonna feel good about me. Versus if I go and I put the dog on place and I'm like, don't move from there. And I'll call you in a minute and I'll tell you to get over there. And then I'll call you later and I'll tell you to lay down over here. and then I'll put you outside for a little while, then I'll recall you back in, go in the crate, all of that stuff. You want to make a dog safe? You want to get rid of unpredictable behavior? Start leading. Start showing your dog that there's accountability for crappy choices. Start showing your dog that, like, humans are up here, and nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that humans are actually supposed to lead dogs, because that's some oppressive, negative, toxic thing. But I'm just telling you, that's what's going on. That's the difference I see between owners that succeed and owners that don't, are that owners that succeed lead their dogs. They don't apologize. They don't feel guilty. They're like, oh, I love you to death. We're going to go camping. We're going to go to the dog beach. We're going to go on hikes. We're going to do all this stuff. But we're also going to do this, this, and this at the house, and pattern and program you to just hang out, sit tight, and not do anything, because what's going on in the world around you, none of your business. And if you don't teach your dog that what goes on, what goes on in the world around them is none of their business, then it will be their business. And when it's their business, they will start growling, start challenging, start biting, start doing all sorts of things. So whether it's the boyfriend and who else?
The trainer.
And the trainer. So I'm going to just sew this one up. The trainer, I'm sorry, I'm sure you're a nice person. That's a fucking dumb strategy. Throwing food to a dog that's in a negative state is a fucking dumb strategy. I've never done it, ever, ever, ever. And you've seen me work with dog after dog after dog after dog after dog that are in bad states, that are dangerous, that would love to tear my face off. And how come I don't get bitten? And how come I'm able within a couple of weeks to work with those dogs off leash and off muzzle? Same with my team. Henri, this big, how come she's able to do it? What's the answer? The answer is we lead, we guide, we set expectations, we create accountability, rules, structure. Here's the way it works, and do not mess with it. It's that clear. And then the dogs are like, oh, okay, that's what it is. And everybody watching this is like, oh, that's really sad. Like, then dogs, like, they don't get to be dogs, and they have to just listen, and they have to just be like, like plants over there or patio furniture, and they're sad, and they just lay on place. And when I grew up, dogs didn't look like that. It's like, okay, maybe they didn't. Dogs didn't look like that when I grew up either, but most of the dogs I grew up with lived in the backyard. They didn't live in the house. They didn't share tight confines with us, most of them. And they sure as hell weren't treated like babies and children. And so now we've completely turned this thing upside down, and we're like, I don't get it. Why can't they just be dogs? Because you aren't treating them like dogs. Like, if I can give you my most profound answer tonight, that's it, right? Why can't they be dogs? Why can't they just wander? Why can't they have more freedom? Why do they have to walk in a heel? Why can't they be out in front? Because you guys have fucked up and not taught, and I don't mean the person who wrote this question, I mean in general, you guys have fucked up and not taught your dogs that you are leading, that you are in charge, and that they need to follow what you are offering, what you are sharing, what expectations you're holding them to. And without that, you're going to struggle forever and ever and ever. So
kudos to you for taking the dog to Jeff and his team, though.
Absolutely, because what's going to happen is, like, what I just shared is going to be the light version. Jeff's going to lay it on you, or Jeff's team's going to lay it on you big time, because we believe in the exact same thing, because we've watched the exact same thing, because we typically are the last outlet where people go as far as training wise. After they've done this, they climb the ladder. They start here. Okay, we start food, and then we get a little firmer. Okay, we need Jeff, or we need Sean, something like that. So I just want to clarify, what I shared with you is not to come at you, and it's not to make you feel bad, and it's nothing along those lines. I'm super proud of you that you're reaching out for help, and you'll probably end up with like an amazing situation after 5 weeks of that board and train. But please, 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 and he's going to hand you my book, because that's part of their program. He's going to hand you my book, Love Them by Leading Them. Read the book. Read it deeply. It's not a dog training book. It doesn't teach you about like leash, leash handling and the mechanisms of the e-collar and the prong. It's all about this and how they get in the way of us being able to lead our dogs in a healthy fashion.
Everyone who's watching that.
Yeah, and so once Jeff hands you that book, or Joelle or whoever's there, read that book and read it 3 times, and then you'll be in a really great space. And like I said, once again, I'm rooting for you. I'm not trashing you. This heated message is really a message.
Passion.
It's no, that's Jeff's line. This heated message is pushing back because I see so many people told this message to just try and build a bridge through food and praise and love, and that will get them where they need to go. And what ends up happening is people get hurt and dogs get put to sleep. And that's why I'm so heated about it. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, so because we typically do 5 questions, this is going to be viewed as a bonus question. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. O'Shea?
Yes.
Okay. Bonus question from Instagram from Sour Patch Penny, which is a great...
Not Sour Patch Panty. Let's get this straight.
Sour Patch Penny. I was going to say it's a great Instagram.
Penny.
I said Penny. Oh my God, because you do the whole T thing. See, that's the problem. That's the problem, mate. Just saying.
Penny.
I know, but that's how I say penny. But you guys you don't say panty. That's a problem because you don't do the whole T thing. That's the problem.
The controversy rages on, guys. Okay,
if you
so
would say panty and pronounce the letters within words, guys, we wouldn't have this panty problem.
We do have a panty problem. Anyways, guys,
I'm not even going to go there. I'm not from here. That's all I have to say.
She's from up there. Anyways, so she's going to tackle this one herself. I'm just going to sit here and watch and root her.
Be nice to me and my penny.
And your penny. And penny.
Sour Patch Penny, I love
there
your
you
Instagram.
go.
I did it on purpose, but it's really hard for me. But I love your Instagram handle.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Rock.
Yes. A non-dog training question. I would like to hear how Martha got into dog training and her path from the start to now. I had to do that. It's just too funny. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to be super honest with this one because I think most...
I prefer when you just lie straight to their faces, but go ahead.
No, but like there's like you can only tell part of a story or the whole story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because I think most dog trainers got into dog training because their dogs were so misbehaved and they got a positive reinforcement trainer and they tried to do all these things and they realized it didn't work. So they slowly got eased into prong and e-collar work, and that is so like not my story. That's why I'm saying I'm going to be as honest with that as possible.
Lay it on, Sour Patch Penny.
So basically, when I was 19, I moved to New Zealand. And after a couple years of being there, my ex-boyfriend and I got a dog, and she was super naughty. And he wanted to rescue more and more dogs, and we ended up with way too many dogs, which wasn't very great.
How many?
I don't even know. God knows how many.
5, 10, 15?
5, like
okay.
around 5. But it was like always on and off. At some point we had like 9, then it was back to 5, but mainly 5. And like, fair enough, we had like 10 acres of land, like rural, beautiful country of New Zealand. So like you had the space, but it's not great if they like run away and kill sheep. It's not good.
Yeah.
So basically we had like lots of issues. They were really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking into books and stuff and like how to like get your dogs to even just to stop jumping. That would have been great because as soon as you walk through the door and you have 5 staffies jump on you, it's not fun.
Yes.
So the whole thing about like turn your back and it's going to be great, I was like, that shit doesn't work. like literally, because that's how I talk in my head about things.
You weren't like, this doesn't feel like it's accurate.
No. That's definitely how I thought.
This shit doesn't work.
This shit ain't working.
This shit ain't working.
And anyway.
She's from rough stock.
Yes, she is. And then how did I even get about meeting Gary? I don't even know. But basically, there were obedience classes announced, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go to that, because that sounds like something where I can not just learn from books, but actually be hands-on. So I took the then still most well-behaved dog that we had. There was like an out-of-control lab mix, like 8 months old, just like raw, but like terrible, but still like the best out of the whole lot, which was great. And it was like pretty heavy compulsion. Like there was nothing like pretty about it.
Is it choke chain?
Mainly like choke chain. There was not much teaching, just like corrections. Like if the dog doesn't know what things are, then that's just what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But guys, like it has opened up a whole new world for me. It has opened up a world of like just like not taking any shit from any of those dogs anymore. And I'm 100% so super grateful. I'm not gonna name any names where I learned stuff from, because I don't know if that person wants it out there or not, but basically whoever that is has taught me how to like not take shit, because we didn't have any prong collars or e-collars, how to be creative to stop all, like when people complain about dogs barking in the yard, I was like, well, I was sitting by that window for hours at no time to get those dogs to stop barking. And like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like if you get creative, you can get the results. And basically just getting super creative with like what can make dogs stop certain behaviors. But yes, it was like pretty heavy compulsion, not just like choke chains, but more heavier stuff that you would like expect farmers to be doing.
Right.
But that's how I got into the whole mix. Then I have realized that there are some things that I couldn't fix, or not just fix, but that needed more.
That it wasn't the best
enough.
approach for everything.
It wasn't the best approach. It was sad for some dogs, not always.
Maybe
dogs.
for harder dogs, it was a good fit. For the softer, medium dogs, too much. Yeah.
So, and then then I basically started doing my own thing with dogs and training, and then I got puppy Marula. If you guys seen the brown border collie Marula, I got her, and before her I had Archie. He trained up really well. Super pleased with him. Perfect little dog, and off leash recall without e-collars and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, like great. I got Marula, and I sort of like she was a very hard puppy. Like if you ever had a dog that screamed on top of its lungs 24/7 for months at no end, like it's not fun. But then I started looking for other stuff, because what I knew all of a sudden didn't work anymore, right? So I found Jeffrey. I'm still a super fan. Jeffrey Gelman. And he was doing his free Skype, so I called Jeff on the free Skype, and I was like, I'm having like serious problems with my 11-week-old puppy, because she's not gonna hold a downstay. Like something is wrong with her, because no matter what I do, she'll just like run away. An 11-week-old puppy that won't hold a downstay is like not a very bad thing. But that was like where I was at the time, and he was like, I don't understand the problems you're having. But basically he actually introduced me into how to be softer, how to be more patient, how to be taking things slower,
all the things that no one would expect Jeff to be.
Yeah. I know. That's why.
I try and tell people that all the time.
Yeah. And so that's where things have taken a different turn for everything that I knew. I ordered an e-collar a few months later after Archie got attacked, and he started having some issues with dogs on walks. They were never on leash, and he never would approach other dogs. But it's all very loosey goosey in New Zealand because you have so much space, and you never see any other people with other dogs, so you like never have to worry about it. But then if other dogs would run up, he wouldn't bite or anything, but he didn't have pretty reactions.
Yeah.
So I had to get an e-collar and work through that, and that's how I got into e-collar stuff. Never ordered. Oh yes, I did order one prong collar, but I never needed it because I didn't need it then. Now I wish I would have had it when I started training, but it's a whole thing. But that's basically how I got into e-collar training and started learning more nuanced stuff, more complex stuff, but basically softening up a lot.
Yeah.
Which is probably the exact opposite of what people...
Yeah.
And I think it was Monique who mentioned it, just like when we were working together for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Just leash skills. If you see someone working lots with martingales, lip leads, and especially choke chains, you see the mechanics of someone doing that a lot. So she was like, "You've been doing choke chain stuff." I'm like, "Yes." So you see that stuff.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's when we have clients come in.
I'm sorry, just one thing. Whoever's watching that back in New Zealand, and I'm still not going to mention the trainer's name. I just want to make super clear that what I have learned about like taking back my life, being in a leadership position, not taking any bullshit from anyone, and that's not just for dogs, but also with people, and straightening up boundaries and all those things has been super impactful and so valuable. But I also needed to learn to soften up. Just want to make sure that I'm clear that I'm super grateful for that learning experience and everything that came with it.
Yes, we're all thrilled that she's softened up. It's getting better. It's getting better. But the last thing I'd say is that when we have clients come in, I would always prefer clients to be leaning towards the firmer side, because we can rein them in a little bit and put them in the softer side far easier, I feel, than it is to take soft clients and push them into the firmer side. That's been my experience. So if you come in and you're ready, like, I'm so done with this, I'm ready to rock and roll, let's get it done, let's work with these guys. It's like, cool. Okay, now you need to like cool down a little bit. You don't need to be so firm, you don't need to do that. And they're like, oh, okay. And they can like kind of slide into that. But the owners that are like, okay, do I go up 2? And she just looked really nervous right then. Or like, well, she went, and like, is she gonna be okay? And you know what I mean? If you've got an owner in that space, that is a much more challenging owner to help succeed. And I'm just going to say this, guys. It's a broken fucking record. Leadership. Humans, dogs, if you just lead them, if you just show them what you want, if you just create rules and structure, and you just create accountability for trespasses, and you do it in a way with the right tools and without any kind of emotional baggage, and it's just neutral, and it's just like, I know what's best for you. Let me share what's best for you because I love you, not because I'm angry with you, not because you're a bad dog, but because I want you to have a great big life with me where we get to go everywhere together. If you just do all that stuff, that is the hard stuff, you get the good stuff. You get the fun stuff. You get the big stuff. And so I'd like to close out this episode with that concept. And if I know I've said it a million times, but it's because it's so critical. And it was so critical for me turning my relationship with my dogs around and being able to enjoy them in a way that I never dreamed possible. And it was only because I made that major switch. And once I did, strangely enough, so did they. So anyways, guys, Q&A Saturday 147 is in the bag. Lots of F-bombs, lots of intensity. I was a little revved up this time, probably dealing with some guilt from the brownies, probably working through that.
There should be no more guilt to be had.
Okay, well, thank you. See, she's softening.
I said that
She's softening up. Do you see that, guys?
She's
softening up. It's so sweet. Anyways, and I got her ice cream, and I got her. Come on. Who's a good guy? Anyways, guys, thanks for joining us. This will be up on a podcast soon as well. If you see this and you want to also listen to it, just audio-wise at a later date, we'll be putting that up real soon. And thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for the questions. And I know we didn't get to everybody's stuff, but we tried to get to a bunch of them that we thought would be helpful. So have a great week, and we will talk with you guys soon.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.